Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon, Chief.
Good afternoon.
Hi, Susan. Don, everybody doing good?
Yeah, Ron's a little sideways. There we go. All right. I'm just looking to get everybody a minute to join. We got Kelly, we got Ron, Chief Sailor, Jim, Dan. Chief, do you see Martin?
I do not.
Okay.
Oh.
We have Dave Gordon.
You know what, Mr. Martin, you want me just to go ahead and call roll? I don't mind. I have to apologize to everybody. I have to work off my iPad. My camera on my desktop has failed me this week. So I'll just call roll whenever you're ready to call the meeting to order, Mr. Martin.
All right, we'd like to call a meeting in order for the January 26, 2021 Police, Fire, and EMS Commission meeting. So we would like to start with the, I guess, roll call, Chief. You want to start there?
Sure. Alderman Mortland is present. Mr. Willman.
He's here. He's on mute, but he's here.
Mr. Sanders is here. Mr. Larson. Mr. Larson. Anybody see Mr. Larson?
Mr. Larson is actually.
Oh yeah, Mr. Larson. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Commissioner Larson. Commissioner Larson has served his time and is stepped away, and we'll do a little more update. Go ahead.
I apologize for it. I see Ms. Crandall. I see Mr. Kariakis. I see Mr. Shinakase, Mr. Jadis, Mr. Conrad, Mr. Gordon.
I do not see Gordon. Oh, there he is.
Oh, there he is.
Yep.
He is Brendan's phone.
Brendan's phone.
Okay. And then I thought I saw Mr. Vasquez. Did I see Mr.
He's
Vasquez?
There. Yep.
Yes, he is.
I'm here.
All righty, Mr. Mortland, it's all yours.
All right. Well, great. So we're going to start off with old business. The meeting minutes from September 29th, 2020 meeting have been distributed. Any questions or concerns?
None.
If not, seeing none, the minutes stand approved. And moving into new business, the chair report, first off, as far as the Police, Fire, and EMS Commission, we want to say thank you very much to many years, over almost 2 decades of service with Commissioner Larson, helping out in a variety of roles with our city, but just with Police, Fire, and EMS, he has stepped down as of December. And last night we were grateful to bring on a new Police, Fire, and EMS Commissioner, Pete Agabright, who will be going through his onboarding. Pete has been very involved and very supportive throughout the city of Town and Country, especially if you go down Clayton Road. He has a blue front porch light for first responders and handling it. And then he's also attended the police academy and just has a lot to offer and help. So he will be joining us next meeting. With regards to other alderman updates, primarily discussing the fire and EMS task force that we're going through. Just to reiterate, the extension for the fire contract was agreed and accepted with West County EMS, and we appreciate everybody's intent and just overall just understanding where things are with COVID and uncertainties and doing that. So we have that. Then we have a fire and EMS task force that is actually looking at the strategic long-term strategy of what the resources, what the services are for not only just fire and EMS, we're also talking police and public safety, but it's just coming back through that area. Commissioner Sanders is sitting on that task force too. And our last meeting, we went over really what if we optimally handled the fire and EMS, what would that services look like from a staffing level, from a facilities level, and just overall from a response time level. So we're working through that. And once we have that update, we're going to be bringing that back to this commission for input and going through information before we take that next step. That's all the aldermanic update that I have. So I'm going to move to the Chief Sadler, Fire Chief's report.
Good evening.
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 How's everyone doing? Thanks for having me. We've spent quite a bit of time, obviously, with the task force, and we can answer if anybody has any questions. I'm happy to answer anything about that. But the point, I guess, or what I was going to focus on this meeting, and in the interest of everybody's time, was just going to review the interesting year that we had in 2020 and go over a little bit of the data, just dip the toe in the water a little bit, and then talk a little bit about 2021 and what we're anticipating. So with that, I actually boiled this down to, I'm going to try and show you guys, if I can, my screen. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Yeah, see it fine.
Okay. So the interesting thing, and I'll give you a little bit of background. So this is about as simply as I could make this data look. The bottom line is when the pandemic, if everybody remembers, the first case of COVID was officially brought forth in early March, and you can kind of look at the data, and up until March, those numbers are actually pretty typical. We're generally at the beginning of the year somewhere between 500 and 550 calls a month total. And usually in the summer, those numbers start ticking up. Spring and summer, those tick up, and then they fall off just a little bit toward the end of the year. You can obviously see the trend starting in late March and early April went the other direction. We were down fairly significantly. They started to come back up as the restrictions were eased up just a little bit, and then they went back down as the restrictions were tightened back up. So we never really reached where we would normally be, which is pretty much what everybody across the nation is, definitely regionally and really across the nation. Everybody's seeing call volume. For the most part, everyone is seeing call volume mirroring what we're seeing. So not surprised by this. We're anticipating 2021, obviously, as the vaccine gets rolled out and things hopefully in all likelihood start getting opened back up a little bit. We anticipate the call volumes ticking upward. With that, the one of the questions that everybody has asked, just sort of one-on-one, is what did that do? What did this do for response times? And it's interesting because the response times improved, but not really to the extent we would hope with this kind of call volume decrease. So we on average in Town and Country, we saw about a 15-second response time improvement, which is good. It helps, but given the call volume decrease, it wasn't a ton, which ties back into the geographic challenges that we've talked about a lot. It just takes a period of time to get to certain areas of Town and Country. So does anybody have any questions about this data?
No.
Okay. So as we anticipate 2021 kind of hopefully returning to a little bit more normal, we are also anticipating the arrival. We'll be getting the ladder truck we ordered. I filled you guys in on last July. We ordered a ladder truck that'll be going to, it looks like it's going to go to our Station 1, and we're going to be moving the heavy rescue down to Station 2, which is where our training center is. We'll be, with the pandemic, we were a little bit restricted, as you can imagine, with some of our training regimen. We're hoping to get back online with not only our internal training, but also the training we do regionally with several of the departments and districts around the area. So those are the things that are on tap. We've got the normal projects that we do every year, just maintenance projects. We've got a big concrete project coming up down at our training center, some concrete replacement. And then we're also doing some technology infrastructure, server upgrades, that sort of thing. So with that, I open the floor up to any questions you might have.
Commissioners, any questions for Chief Sadler? Martin?
In regards to your meetings that you've been having on the fire going down the road, has anything been decided? Are you leaning any particular one way of adding a second station house or not? Are you looking to have a fire district or not? Has anything been addressed in those two issues?
Do you want me to take this, Mr. Chairman?
You can take it, and then I could follow up. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think the task force really has, they're keeping things kind of at the 35,000 foot view to get a picture of where the needs are, where the gaps are. I don't think any decisions have been made on direction at all. I think it's mainly they're still in a fact-finding mode. If that's, would you agree with that, Mr. Chairman?
I do. I think Commissioner Willman, we went through a process of educating the task force on all of the surrounding areas, what their fire solution, whether it be district, they own their own fire department and facilities and everything else like that. So we came back and we looked at that, and we also looked at the response time and looked at the fact that we need to come up with the optimal solution for our residents, for public safety, for response time. And the optimal solution would include more than one facility. We've looked at locations really more on the bookends, and we've discussed, we've discussed areas, but in the end, where a couple of our task force members are going to be meeting with Chief Sadler, they're going to be designing those optimal solutions both in a fire district and outside in not a fire district, and having that conversation to saying, here's the optimal solution. All right, then how do we fund it? And if we don't have the funding, what's the best alternative, and build those back. So we'll have those pretty soon here, sir. Okay. Other questions for Chief Sadler?
I do. I have one. Jeff, do you have any idea? I mean, I know it would be hard to guess, but how many of your calls are related to symptoms of COVID? Have you seen is there any make a stab at that?
Honestly, if in April, May, that early onset area, there was a lot of calls that were theoretically related to COVID. As things have kind of evolved, and actually the data really didn't support that most of those calls were COVID related at that time. We've had the last couple of months, we've had a little bit of an uptick because there'll be, we'll have for a lack of a better term, we'll have an outbreak at a nursing facility where they've got people who, there's a group of people who maybe, we'll have a day where we might transport 5 or 6, 10 out of one facility. But then we won't have any for quite a while. In the grand scheme of things, most of this has been handled without requiring resources from us. It's been pretty quiet. The unfortunate part, I guess, is that, and it's not unique to us, is there's a fairly significant capital outlay for the PPE that's required, and we have to protect our people. We have to, and it's not unique. Everybody's protecting themselves, and so any call we go on, we're using quite a bit of PPE.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions for Chief Sadler? Susan? I'll get you next, Ron. Susan, if you want to unmute.
So have all of your department, your crew, have they all gotten any or some of the vaccines?
Yeah. In progress. Yeah. I think we're about 70% right now. And most of it's been tied to people either being unavailable at the time the first round was circulated, or they were coming off of being positive or presumptive positive. And at the time, just recently they changed some of the parameters that initially they were having people wait 90 days until after they were symptom free, and we're not doing that anymore. So, but we're 70-80% right now.
Okay.
Okay, good question, Susan. Ron, if you want to mute, you're on mute, sir. You're still on mute, sir. Lori, is there a way you can help him? Was it mute? There you go.
Can you
Ron.
hear me?
Yes, sir.
No, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Chief Sattler, are you familiar with the Lucas CPR item for first responders?
Mhm.
Could you explain that to us?
Sure. We've got them. They're an automated CPR device. So it's basically a machine that provides CPR to people who need it.
How are they different than what we already have?
Well, prior to it used to be people that perform the CPR, and the Lucas device is a machine that does it.
Huh.
So you used to, like when you would see people doing CPR, there's a machine that actually just has a strap that circles.
Yes, I've seen those, but I see them in our church, and we have the machines. But I heard that there was something new where this machine does some different technique. It pushes and pulls or something like that.
Yeah, it would be a little surprising if you had a Lucas device in your church, we can talk about it offline if you want, just to confirm are you talking about an AED or are you talking about a Lucas device?
Well, I'm not exactly sure of the term, but we just got it about 6 months ago.
Okay. Yeah, I can probably circle back with you and we can chat about it. A Lucas device is just a battery operated CPR device. It actually does compressions on somebody's chest as opposed to shocking them.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Great. Any other questions for Chief Sadler? Oh, Jim, you're on mute, sir. That was the #1 phrase of 2020. So, to provide some kind. Lori, can you help him unmute?
here. Try that.
We
hear
can
me?
hear
Go,
you.
Jim.
Yes, sir.
Somebody
We can
just
hear
put
you.
a prompt up there for me. I'm sorry. Yeah, a question for the chief. In your task force, has there been any discussion about that quick response vehicle we had talked about in the past up there in Ward 4?
We had, well, I haven't participated in all the meetings. To my knowledge, that specific topic has not come, well, maybe it did. Mr. Chairman may be able to confirm that. We may have had a brief conversation about it.
Which vehicle was this? So
Like a quick response vehicle, like a suburban type
okay.
vehicle. We've had a lot of different conversations about a lot of different topics and kind of covered the gamut. That may have come up at one point or another. At this point, I think we're really the task force seems to be really kind of trying to get the best, like sort of having option A, B, C, and D, and being able to filter through them.
Yeah, and Jim, we were talking about vehicles. We're talking about firehouses. We're talking about police substations. We're talking about the public works over at the salt mill, if that's a location. And then we're talking about each vehicle, a ladder truck, the off-road brush vehicle that we have, pumpers, ambulances. So we're talking about all of those. Obviously, we're focusing on the highest need and then looking into that. But we have that on the list. We have not discussed it in depth though yet.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for Chief Sadler? Susan?
This is just not related to any of that. It's just a curiosity question. If someone's car goes off the road and then down a cliff and over an edge and it's dangling in a tree and you have to get 7 pieces of equipment, are they billed for that?
No.
Okay.
So,
They I can expound on that just real quickly. There are provisions for billing fire resources, and we can, again, this can be an offline conversation if you want, but it can be challenging in a lot of different areas to do it. There's areas of the country that have done some fire/rescue billing that it's kind of a little bit of a slippery slope.
I was just curious. I have a sister-in-law who was hiking in Utah and fell off the trail and down the side.
Oh, yeah.
Had to be airlifted out,
Yeah.
and that's all covered by, I guess, tax dollars.
Yeah, I mean, those can get, when you start getting the specialty rescue, like especially helicopter evac, you can get billed for.
No, that was all included. It was free.
Yeah.
They did not charge. So I was curious.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Sure.
all right. Any other questions? If not, we're gonna move over to Chief Cavins and do the police chief's report.
Good evening, everybody, or good late afternoon. For those of you that I haven't seen or chatted with since the new year, Happy New Year, and I hope everybody and their family staying safe and healthy. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to stray just a little bit from my agenda to give a couple shout outs. My first thank you I need to extend to Ms. Crandall. Over the last probably 3-4 weeks to over a month, she has really been tirelessly bugging the local hospitals, wanting answers of why first responders, especially law enforcement officers, have not received their vaccinations. For the board's or for the commission's edification, Chief Sattler and I sit on the safety committee. I represent, along with a couple other police chiefs, represent the St. Louis area police chiefs at the Emergency Operations Center. And Chief Sattler and I have been on that committee since the onset back in late February. Unfortunately, law enforcement has been left out, has not been taken seriously with the COVID vaccine. And I have to, on behalf of the entire TCPD, I've got to give Ms. Crandall a huge shout out because she has been, like I said, on the phone with all of our local hospitals, trying to figure out how we can get in, when we can get in, and wanting answers of why we haven't been getting in. So for that, I greatly appreciate it, Susan. I've also bent Chief Sattler's ear, trying to reach out to his contacts a little bit deeper to get us vaccinations. And after speaking with Susan numerous times, Chief Sattler numerous times, Tim Fitch, Mark Harder, somehow today, surprisingly, the St. Louis Emergency Operations Center sent out a link for all first responders to start getting our vaccines Monday. So I just wanted to, since Susan brought up the vaccine for the fire service and EMS service, she deserves a thank you on behalf of the police department, because the phone has been, my phone has been blowing off the hook from Susan Crandall, but it was for an absolutely wonderful reason, and we greatly appreciate it. I'm very humbled. The second shout out also includes Susan and Jim Conrad and Don Sanders. For those new commission members, every year, Town and Country Police Department, we participate in the Polar Plunge for Special Olympics Missouri, to where a bunch of us jump into the frigid waters of Creve Coeur Lake at the end of February. And again, they have been consistent supportive of ours and have donated significantly to the cause. And again, on behalf of all of us that have a little bit of, let's just say, common sense, we are going to jump in the lake again. And I invite all of you to come out and see us on February 27th at 1 p.m. at Creve Coeur Lake to watch all your police officers jump in the lake. We have a great time. It builds camaraderie, and at the end of the day, it's for a great cause. So thank you to those three for supporting us so consistently throughout the years. So back to the agenda.
Chief, I have a question about that.
Yes,
This
sir.
is Ron Jordis.
Yes.
I received some correspondence from Jefferson City on the Special Olympics Polar Plunge for a donation.
Okay. I
Now,
tell you what.
do you get credit for?
I will use Jeff Sattler's statement that I'll connect with you offline, and we'll get you set up with one of our officers so that they get credit for it. Ron, does that sound like a deal?
Sounds good.
All righty, sir. So on the agenda, I've received official notification from Officer Chris Hunt that he will be officially retiring March 8th after 26 years of service to the citizens of Town and Country. Many of you probably know Chris. He served as a detective for quite some time. He was in the schools for a while, and he is planning on moving into the private sector. So we wish him the best of luck. And as the day grows or draws nearer, as I normally do with the commission, I'll send out a reminder that he is retiring. And if you wish to send him your best, you'll have his email address, and I'll make sure I get that to you in a expeditious manner before he officially signs off into retirement. To replace Officer Hunt, I have received approval to hire his replacement, and Lieutenant Walker is currently in the middle of a background investigation on our #1 candidate on our hiring list. Her name is Erin O'Brien. Miss O'Brien doesn't have any municipal law enforcement experience. However, she has worked as a deputy juvenile officer for the Jefferson County, Missouri Juvenile Office, as well as she's currently the Violence Prevention Project Coordinator at Jefferson College. While working full-time, Erin put herself through the police academy. She has actually rode with several of our officers on numerous occasions We've received very high regards for her personality, for her intrigue and her initiative from our own officers that she's rode with. So we are very excited to bring her on board in March. Should everything go well in her background and all of the conditional offer of employment requirements, testing, we'll bring her on board March 15th. And we're excited because this gives us our first opportunity to grow our own. She doesn't bring any ideas, philosophies, or habits from a different agency. We can actually grow our own, and we're excited to hear some of her fresh ideas from the police academy. So again, as that day draws closer, I'll keep everybody up to speed, but it should be March 15th. We will provide her the oath of office. I emailed all of you yesterday on my schedule of recognizing several officers for different levels of awards for their actions in different incidents over the course of the last several months. Does anybody have any questions or comments on that at all? Anybody? Okay. I also wanted to inform all of you that late in the day yesterday, we were informed by the Missouri police chiefs that once again, Town and Country Police Department has successfully completed and passed and met all the standard components to be recertified and reaccredited by the Missouri Police Chiefs Association. For those of you that aren't familiar with the process, TCPD has to submit over 400 written proofs to verify our compliance with components of law enforcement standards that are identified both by the Missouri Police Chiefs Association and the International Association of Chiefs of Police. These standards require police policies and procedures for topics ranging from role and authority and purchasing to use of force and internal affairs. This process is a very tedious process, and special thanks go to Captain Mike Defoe and Lieutenant Danny Wilkie for all their efforts to accomplish their mission. This is a huge accomplishment in any law enforcement agency's world, and I'm proud of their efforts, and I'm proud to say that we are one of the accredited in the state of Missouri. What's next? The FY 2021 projects. The biggest project that we have initiated already for 2020 that most of you are familiar with is our transition into load-bearing vests. I brought this to the commission back probably this time last year, but due to COVID and the financial setbacks, I didn't cut it, but I minimized it. I didn't want to go to it until we were all properly fitted for them. So right now, Lieutenant Wilkie and Officer Jeff Rowland are in the process of confirming all the cost for the vests and for the items to be placed on the vest. For those that aren't familiar, load-bearing vests are a new, not necessarily a new, but it's an improved technique or approved piece of equipment where we remove most of the weight of our equipment from around our hips and our lower back and our knees to the front of our chest, and that the load of our equipment is then now reinforced by our shoulders, the full complement of our back and our abdomen area. Statistics have shown that this has improved not only the physical health of officers, the mental well-being of officers, and it has reduced the injuries and worker comp claims from law enforcement officers. Some may say it brings about a tactical look. But Officer Rowland did a great job researching it with my instructions that we had to remove the tactical appearance as much as possible. The material for the vest or the vest carrier will be just like our shirts. The carrier will have our badge on it, our name stitched into it on the right breast. And there's only certain equipment that they'll be allowed to carry on the vest to help minimize the tactical look. We will still look as professional as all of you and our citizens expect us to look. We're just trying to improve the overall mental health and physical health of our officers by removing the weight from around the waist and the hips and put it up to the more stronger part of the body. Other than that, the standard of our vehicle purchases and replacements we will begin researching all of those. The only new item that I have in regards to moving forward in 2021, all of you are familiar with the Lafayette Area Police Agency MOU that we entered into probably 6 months ago with Baldwin, Manchester, Chesterfield, and Ellisville. We are expanding that MOU just a little bit. The city of Ellisville has bought license plate reader cameras that they're going to be installing on Manchester Road on both ends of their city. Because we are in that original MOU with Ellisville, Chief Lewis and the city of Ellisville are granting us the opportunity to have access to their system so that our officers or our investigators, during the course of their investigative process, if they come up with a license plate, a partial license plate, they can enter that into Ellisville's LPR system and try to develop leads on suspect vehicles. So that will be, I'm just in the initial stages of writing the ordinance to be presented to the Board of Aldermen. But that's one new, a new project that we're working on to expand the MOU and to expand our partnerships with our neighboring communities to fight the crime in West County. Other than that, Mr. Chairman, unless anybody's got any questions or need me to expand on anything, that's all I've got.
Question,
Go ahead, Martin.
Chief, don't we already have 2 readers, and are they presently working? Well, I know one.
No, we don't. We no longer have those LPRs. I can tell you that I don't have, those were out of service upon my arrival. And I don't know why they are no longer functioning or what happened to them prior to my arrival. I will tell you that the ones that I was told that Town and Country had were similar to my previous law enforcement agencies. They are very expensive to upkeep. They're very expensive to maintain the software and all the operating systems that are required for those systems. And this is absolutely a great option for us.
Well, I mean, Chief, I mean, what happened to them? I mean, that's a very expensive piece of equipment to.
You know what? Honestly, I have no idea. I can research with Captain Defoe to determine and get back with you, Mr. Willman. But I was not familiar. I was not familiar until here lately that we even had them.
No. Okay.
They're not on, I will tell you this, they're not deployed on any of the vehicles.
Because they were such great things when we had them before, and to suddenly find out that they disappeared is rather concerning.
You know what? I may have an answer for you right now. How long ago was it?
Oh, 3 or 4 years ago, we were told that we could no longer get software to support those systems.
Okay, from Lieutenant Wilkie, I've just been told that 3 or 4 years ago, the software that was present on those cameras were no longer supported.
Well, that's a shame.
Chief, do you want to just quickly mention about the replacement of the speed guns?
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. Good point, Mr. Mortland. Captain Defoe applied for a blueprint grant equipment, blueprint equipment grant through the Missouri Department of Highways and Commissions. We did receive the grant. We bought 4 laser radar speed units that we had initially purchased from the budget. It was not initially in the budget. Those were items that were removed because of the COVID financial restrictions. However, we received the grant, we purchased them, and that money that will be fully reimbursed from the state and be placed back into the budget.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, sir.
Other
Anybody
questions
else?
for Chief Cavins? Mr. Larson, Jim?
Yeah, one of the questions I have is in regard to used to have these portable speedometer electronic things. I used to see them on Clayton Road all the time.
We still have those.
Okay. I always thought they were pretty.
Yeah, those are absolutely a benefit and very, very functional for us. Matter of fact, they have just been requested to be deployed on Van Cortlandt, and but we use them pretty regularly.
Okay, I just haven't seen them. I have another question for you, Chief.
Sure.
The intersection of Clayton Road and Mason Ridge.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people are using Mason Ridge now because Mason is so darn rough. And I never used to use Mason Ridge because I didn't want to inconvenience all those people that lived around there. But the street's getting so rough that Mason, that between Clayton and the highway, that I've been using Mason Ridge. And I notice in the evening, there's a lot more cars if you're going east on Clayton Road, instead of going all the way down to Mason, they're turning onto Mason Ridge now.
Okay.
And it's pretty dark along there. And all of a sudden people say, oh, there it is, and apply the brakes kind of heavily. And I just wondered, and I know they're going to be apparently replacing Mason Road next year, or maybe it's this year, as soon as the water company puts a new water line in there. That's probably going to be closed down for some time. And I just wondered if there's any plans on putting a temporary traffic signal there. And I'd like to see a street light put in there too.
I will tell you that what Mr. Conrad, there's been no plans discussed with me or brought to my attention. That would be something, if that's, we'd have to determine if that's a state or county road, number one, if that's a state or county intersection. However, that's something I can follow up with Mr. Shelton to see what type of information that he may have through Tim Randick about any kind of work, what they're planning on doing with road work, either the state or the county. But in the meantime, we'll make sure that we're more visible on Mason Ridge to see if we can't make an effect on the traffic a little bit.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's a county maintained road.
Okay.
It had been. So,
Okay.
But I'm sure when they put the water line in there, that will be closed.
Yeah, that is slated.
Maybe they just haven't informed you yet.
Sure.
Martin, you had a question?
I just, Chief, are you saying that all 4 of the laser radar guns are paid for by the state and it didn't cost us anything for all 4? I mean, it just seems like 4 is a big number for our very small department.
Yes, we had to pay for that initially. And Mr. Willman, I will tell you that our officers use them on a daily basis with the traffic on 141, Clayton, Ballas, and all the interstate lanes that we are responsible for. Those get used. And yes, we initially had to pay for them out of the budget, but we will be fully reimbursed by the state.
Any other questions for Chief Cavins? Seeing none, thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Could I add something in there, Chairman?
Sure, sure.
As a clarification, since I handled the blueprint project, our fleet of laser guns was 10 to 12 years old, requiring more and more repair. And that's why we went through this process to secure some new equipment so that it wouldn't cost the city anything. This is Captain Defoe speaking, by the way. So I handled the blueprint grant, and the chief had all the facts correct, but I just wanted to clarify why we purchased the number that we did.
Thank you. Thank you, Captain Defoe. Susan?
Just a quick, and the body cams are all on and everything's going well with that?
Yes, ma'am. Everything's functioning. Everything is working in conjunction like we hoped it would have, or we expected it to. We did have some hiccups with some connectivity issues, but nothing that put any of them out of service, anything like that. Our IT department and Turnkey, where we purchased all of the body worn cameras, the tough books, and the in-car cameras, have been on top of everything, and everything's working fine, Susan.
I'm just curious if the officers have thought that the people act any differently now, or do the people that get pulled over or approached even notice?
No, I would say from all the research that has been done with body worn cameras since they've come into play for law enforcement, that the general or the standard citizen contact, the calls for service that we go to, they may say, oh, you've got a body camera, but there's nothing that really changes any of their approach, any of our approach, their reaction, our reaction, anything like that. Good question. Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, we're going to hand it over to Fire Marshal Phipps. Fire Marshal Phipps, floor is yours.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I have nothing to report on.
Okay, well, wonderful. This is open agenda items. Any other agenda items that we'd like to discuss?
I had one item, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, Ron.
I'd like to just comment to our police chief, Jim, that the end of the year award ceremony for the department over at CBC was outstanding. It was a first of its kind, and he promised that he would continue that yearly to honor the service of our men. And especially this year, we had a unit award for our detective bureau, which I thought was really special. That's it.
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you, sir.
Any other open agenda items or any questions? If not, so our next meeting is, I was just pulling that up. Our next meeting is the 23rd of February, which is Tuesday, the 23rd. We will have the meeting and we will have information coming from the fire and EMS task force to discuss. So that'll be a good portion of the meeting that evening or late afternoon. So if it's been sent out, if anybody needs the calendar invite again, just let Lori know. Other than that, can I have a motion to close the session?
Motion to adjourn.
All right. Thank you. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all for your time. Stay safe, and we appreciate all your commitment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.